As the war in Gaza in West Asia drags on, its ripple effect is being felt elsewhere around the world. US universities have become the latest flashpoint. This as students across the country are holding pro-Palestine protests at different campuses and premises. Now, in the latest, in the heart of New York City, the NYPD officers dressed in riot gear have stormed through the window of Columbia University building. The police personnel began to flush out dozens of protesters within the campus building. The officials flooded the Ivy League campus in New York City and made a push towards Hamilton Hall. The police has now cleared the hall, which students had taken control of. Hamilton Hall had been barricaded by students who have vowed they will fight any eviction as they protest the soaring death toll from Israel's war with Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Now the occupation began overnight when protesters broke windows, stormed inside and unfurled a banner reading Hinds Hall, symbolically renaming the building for a 6-year-old Palestinian child killed in Gaza by the Israeli military. Interestingly, the hall itself has a long history of student protests. In 1968, anti-Vietnam War protesters barricaded themselves in the hall.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
Well, during the raid by the police, dozens of other officers surrounded the nearby protest site. Onlooking students standing outside the campus jeered them with shouts of "Shame, shame." Officers were also seen leading handcuffed protesters to police vehicles outside campus gates. As of now, the police are yet to confirm how many students they have detained. But reports suggest the police has boarded about 50 detainees onto a bus, while nearly 100 students have been arrested. Ambulances and other emergency services vehicles also stood at the road. Now, according to reports, the raid comes after President of Colombia asked the police officials to come to the campus to restore order and safety following an escalation in the demonstrations. Moreover, the action came as university administrators around the US struggled to contain pro-Palestinian demonstrations on dozens of campuses. The unrest has swept through the United States' higher education institutions like wildfire. The protests have posed a challenge to university administrators who are trying to balance free speech rights with complaints that the rallies have veered into anti-Semitism and hate. In one of the newest clashes at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, the police has moved to clear one encampment, detaining some protesters in a tense showdown. During this part of the protest, law enforcement used pepper spray on protesters, which led to the demonstrators to throw bottles at the officials. While at the University of Texas in Austin, state troopers were at the scene of a pro-Palestinian protest. The university has seen fierce clashes between the protesters and authorities, with students loudly calling for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and demanding the university divest from weapons manufacturers. While the UCLA campus has now declared that the pro-Palestinian encampment on campus is unlawful and violates university policy, warning that students who do not leave will face possible suspension or expulsion. Now, this comes as pro-Palestinian protesters continued to occupy an encampment on campus. More than 50 tents have been set near the main administration building on campus. While security has been tightened with metal fencing surrounding the encampment. The US campuses are hit with demonstrations with former President Donald Trump, and he has blasted the protests. Now, Trump questions if Columbia University students who took over the building will face similar consequences to those who stormed the Capitol 3 years ago on January 6th.
They took over, I know the building very well, they took over a building. That is a big deal. And I wonder if what's going to happen to them will be anything comparable to what happened to J6. because they're doing a lot of destruction, a lot of damages, a lot of people getting hurt very badly. I wonder if that's going to be the same kind of treatment.
Well, for more on this escalation at Columbia, we were just joined by an international affairs expert and a political analyst, Stephen Golub. He was live from California, and just listen into what he had to say.
Yeah, that's a good question. And to tell you the truth, I think it can go both ways at this point. It could be that students or perhaps some outside forces in other universities will be inspired or have taken example from what's going on at Columbia. Or on the other hand, that things may begin to die down as they have begun to at some universities. I'm an alumnus of Brown University, another Ivy League school, which happens to have reached an accommodation with its students to discuss divestment down the line in the months to come, and which has in turn contributed to a diminution of the student protests there. And there are a few other developments going on in other campuses towards peacefully resolving this and the students stepping back from the encampments and other protests. But we'll just have to see which way it could go. And it could be that in some campuses, it'll go in one direction, more agitation and takeovers. In others, that it will go in another towards peaceful resolution fairly quickly.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.